All right, there we go. We're ready to go.
All right, thank you. You're watching a meeting of the Baltimore City Board of Ethics for Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. It's 2:31 p.m. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. So per the Open Meetings Act, the board discloses that it adjourned its virtual open meeting on August 10th, 2022 to enter into administrative session at about 3 p.m. 3 board members were present. Members discussed administrative matters, including complaints. Likewise, today, the board may need to close some or all of this meeting to preserve the confidentiality mandated by the Ethics Code or as otherwise authorized by the State Open Meetings Act. Likewise, upon adjournment of the open session, the board may reconvene for administrative session to discuss non-public administrative functions of the board. Okay, that having been out of the way, let's go ahead and discuss our written minutes of August 10th. Has everybody reviewed them? Are there any changes, Mara or others?
No changes.
No changes.
Great. Then I'll move that we approve the August 10th public minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor of said approval signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. And I'll tell you what, unless you've got a really brief ethics officers update, I think we probably should go ahead and move into new business. Yeah,
Sure, I agree.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, we'll move into new business, and Ms. Dana Moore is present from the Office of Equity and Civil Rights. Thank you for being here. Yep.
You're on mute.
It never gets old.
I was just saying thank you for having me, and I'm joined by my office's chief of staff, Khadijah Fairmond, and our deputy, Kaylin Young.
Thank you very much. Anything specific you want to tell us besides the materials that you have provided about Civil Rights Week and the Greater Mission?
Sure. Well, I mean, our application stands. I thought we did a pretty thorough application. I just want to highlight that this will be the 30th year that the city of Baltimore has celebrated Civil Rights Week. We will be having our 29th Civil Rights Breakfast. It's the 29th because we didn't have any celebration for Civil Rights Breakfast during the pandemic. We're pretty excited about it. We've been meeting on a weekly basis, trying to scratch out what we're going to do. It'll be a very robust week, and we're pretty excited. We know that it's going to cost money. We are just waiting for permission to be able to respond. We've had a number of people tell us they want to support us, and we've asked them to hold off until we have permission to actually engage in fundraising. So. Just waiting for permission.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any questions? No. All right, I want to just take a second. I don't know if you've met Mr. Amberger, Chris Amberger, who's our new director of the office.
Hey,
yeah,
nice to meet you.
We're excited to have him on board.
Nice to meet you, everyone. My mic was off too.
And Mara Ford, you may know, she's a tremendous asset to this board as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, commissioners, is there any discussion whatsoever regarding this gift solicitation waiver?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second that. All in favor of approving the gift solicitation waiver for the Office of Equity and Civil Rights for Civil Rights Week signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Hi, Dana.
Thank you. Hi. Hey.
Melody Hanger. Nice to see you. Sorry I'm late. Just wanted to say a quick hello.
No worries. It's really good to see everyone. And Stephen, you're taking me back to our liquor board days. You know how to run a meeting.
You got to watch some of these. Yeah. Some of these meetings, they get wild. So, thank you,
Oh,
Dana.
that I know, that I know.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for your
much.
support, and we'll be circling back with our report afterwards.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye. Have a great
Bye-bye.
afternoon. Bye.
And so Steve, we also have Director Shantae Jackson from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, if we'd like to move into that.
Please, thank you so much. All right, we're going to move to hello. We're going to move to new business agenda item 3, the B360 dirt bike track application from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you want to tell us a little bit about the scope of your fundraising?
Yes. So B360 is a nonprofit organization that has existed in Baltimore City for some time now, I think dating back to 2018, maybe, and is run by Brittany Young, who is a former engineer. And this organization is meant to teach our young folks who are interested in the dirt bike culture, not just about riding safely, but also about STEM as a career by educating them around mechanical engineering, teaching them how to build and repair bikes. And this particular request is associated with the mayor's intention to make sure that Baltimore's dirt bike culture is one that is honored, that we are creating recreational spaces for our young folks in ways that would facilitate public safety by moving dirt bikes from off of our streets and into sanctioned areas. And this organization has created its own capital campaign. This specific request is one that would grant us permission, if allowed, to solicit funds to be donated to the Justice Opportunity Task Force, which is what is solving or serving as the fiscal sponsor for these funds. In conjunction with that, this organization has a lot of corporate sponsorship associated with this work. Whiting Turner, Twitter has donated $1 million already to this campaign, and Job Opportunities Task Force would be using young people in Baltimore City in partnership with Whiting Turner to construct what would become a $10 million facility. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Needless to say, this would become the first dirt bike facility in the entire country when these funds are raised.
Wow, that sounds pretty fantastic and ambitious. Anybody have any questions regarding the funds and the use thereof?
Not regarding the funds, but is there, Mr. Jackson, is there any, my name is Arnold Sampson, by the way. And it's good to meet you. Is there any expectation that with the facility, when it gets up and running fully, that it will be, there'll be any urging of dirt bike riders who are on the street to go from the street to the track, and that the street will be made less attractive for them?
I would offer that that's a part of the work that B360 is doing right now. They just ended a summer camp for young folks in one of our Southwest Baltimore communities. And in order to engage in this summer camp, no bikes could be ridden on the street. All of the bikes had to be located at the facility. And in fact, Brittany and her team do what they call Uber for dirt bikes, so that there is transportation of dirt bikes into facilities so that they aren't ridden on Baltimore City streets.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to know.
Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none. Is there any discussion? Sorry, hearing none, I would move that we approve this charitable gift solicitation waiver for the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement for the B360 dirt bike track application. I have a second.
I will second it, and it is even more emphatic because of that cute face that just appeared.
I know. That's, yeah.
Thank you. That's my granddaughter coming home from kindergarten.
Should have brought her out the whole time. All right, we've got a second. All right, all in favor of the approval of the solicitation waiver for Monsi for the B360 dirt bike track application, signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
All right. Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing your paralegal. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, you all. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
All right,
That's
well, so the remaining waivers have to do with Councilmember Cohen's office, and I believe that Franny Parker Hale is on the line.
Oh, great.
She's new with the Councilmember Cohen's office. There's a few other people on the line. I'm not sure if they're also with Councilmember Cohen's office. But before I turn it over to Franny, there's just a few things I want to note. Firstly, there were two applications, the Healing City Baltimore Summit and Neighborhood Events, one which was contingently approved by the board in June. And then there was the Peer Specialist waiver application, which was also approved in June. They hadn't been endorsed by the BOE. At our last meeting, we saw some differences in what was endorsed by the BOE, so the board had asked that they be resubmitted. They were resubmitted to the BOE, so the correct applications that were approved by the board were submitted to the BOE and were endorsed. So they now have Ethics Board approval, BOE endorsement, and they should be considered active waivers at this point. So I just wanted to update you all on the state of those two waivers. So they are good to go. I don't know if you have any questions about those two waivers, and Franny can answer them, and we can move into our new waivers then at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we're already halfway through the new waivers, and they're both from Councilman Cohen's office. So I figured we just finish the new business and then don't leave, and we'll finish the old business. Are you okay with that? You just want to go back, because then if we go back to the regular order, then we go back to your report. So I'd say let's go ahead and finish the new business and old business before we do anything else in this session.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. All right, sticking with new business, let's talk about the Office of the Aging request. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Franny.
Yep, and just checking that Maggie is not on the line. No? Okay.
Yeah, let us know who's here. Whose number ends in 51?
Ann Coy.
Yeah, Ann Coy's on the line. I could not get Teams to let me in either via my computer or my phone, so I've called in. And I can speak more to the Healing City waivers than the Office of Aging. I believe Maggie, who is Councilmember Cohen's Chief of Staff, will be joining to talk more about that particular waiver.
But I can answer like some questions. I just can't guarantee that I can answer all questions because I am new. But
all right.
What about
the experience core? Does anybody, are we waiting for Maggie for that as well?
Same.
Okay.
I can give you like a short background.
Sure.
So I'll start with the Office of Aging. Basically, that's donations to support the creation of this mayor's Office of Aging. And that would basically be used for staff and then also programs or grants targeted at older adults in the city of Baltimore.
All right. Excellent. Well, wait, why don't we do this? Why don't we go into old business then and finish that? And and then we'll move right back in. Thank you for your patience. All right. So we're going to go back into old business and revisit the Healing City Baltimore Summit and Neighborhood Events from the office of Councilmember Cohen. Ms. Ford has just notified us that that versions have been passed by the BOE now, and it's our duty to review it and approve it or not. So will you go ahead and let us know about Healing City Baltimore?
Well, and just one quick point. So the board did approve the applications back in June. So it would just be almost kind of like I guess, revisiting it and making sure that approval still stands.
All right, unless there's any objection, I'll move that we approve the Healing City Baltimore Summit neighborhood events request by Councilman Cohen's office.
I'll
I will
second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. And is there any discussion for the peer recovery specialist or just anything else? All right, so I will move for the approval of the peer recovery specialists in agencies from Councilman Cohen's office following its BOE endorsement. Is there a second?
Second.
Noted. And we will, all in favor of granting the solicitation waiver for peer recovery specialists in agencies from Councilman Cohen's office signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Thank you very much for being here for that part of it. And
Just wanted you to know that Maggie is here now.
excellent. I was hoping we could all just filibuster a little bit there.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No.
The calendar got moved for some reason to, now I realize 3 o'clock instead of, I don't know how it moved on my calendar. And anyway, I'm so sorry. Stephen and Mara, apologies. I'm glad you didn't have to filibuster.
Your timing was actually perfect. Thank you.
I can't imagine that, but I have never been accused of having perfect timing, but I'll take it. Mara can attest, I'm typically 2 days late for most of my life. Anyway, okay. Where you tell me where we are in our lineup.
Franny had just given us a nice introduction on the Office of the Aging. And she suggested that perhaps you had more to say on the subject.
Yes. So, I think one thing that we have learned in the last, I would say, year of what initially started out as some specific housing issues with some seniors, especially related to down elevators. I will share a very recent example and connect this back, but we have a senior who is in a senior apartment complex in our district where the elevator's been out for a month. She had to be evacuated by paramedics to actually go to the hospital because she actually fell trying to use the stairs, and then has extended her stay in the hospital because she can't go home where there's no elevator. So something similar, I think, but I will say similar, but a different illustrative example was, and what started us on this kind of quest was about 11 months ago, a senior reached out about Social Security fraud happening with their landlord in their building, where the landlord was taking the Social Security check directly and giving them back like $60 a month. And they felt like, I'm pretty sure he had limited English. He was like an older adult, was like, and so we just started thinking about, this is an incredibly vulnerable population. So we started looking at the idea of, does HCD need an ombudsman? Should we be looking at that? But then the more we kind of peeled back the onion and spoke to seniors, it became very clear that this was not, in no way was this just a housing issue. This was related to kind of all aspects of, across agencies, across challenges. We saw this with the E. coli outbreak a couple weeks ago, where, frankly, senior centers didn't have access to clean water. And it wasn't, unfortunately, until, because this is such an ever-present thing on Zeke's radar. And obviously, the aging commissioners were also kind of bringing this up as well. But to say, city government, how are we making sure that our oldest adults are, in this outbreak, are we getting them water? And that wasn't kind of already necessarily on the radar. So all to say that the more we dug into this, and we have done so with Vice President of the City Council, Sharon Green Middleton, as well as aging advocates or older adult advocates and members of the Aging Commission, et cetera, became very clear that that there was a need for a mayor's level office, within the executive branch that could really have a lens of older adults in line with, as we're building policy, as we're looking at existing policy, as we're looking at existing legislation, et cetera. what we heard loud and clear from the health department was that the reason that years ago the office went from its own discrete office in the mayor's cabinet to the health department was financial, was that there was just not enough money in order to do this. There was not enough sort of, there wasn't enough kind of administrative staff to oversee state grants, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we are still in the process of working with the health department to really understand kind of the dollars of the budget and the breakdown, and also thinking about what would it really look like to have a fully staffed, and at full capacity office of older adults. But I think it became clear to Zeke in these initial sort of conversations that there may well be a funding gap between what the city can budget and what may need to happen through private philanthropy. And I think that's where kind of this waiver comes in, just realizing that there may be an opportunity to engage local foundations in the conversation, or other donors who kind of see this as a critical area. So, I think that's kind of that's where we are in the process. We have introduced legislation calling for the office. The council member and the vice president are doing a series of roadshow tour with older adults across the city, meeting in recreation centers and older adult apartment buildings. I'm really trying to have conversations with older adults and understand the need that exists as they kind of move forward with this office. I will say we yesterday had the second in a resurrected Commission on Aging meeting, which is to say that the Commission on Aging had just been pretty defunct for a while, and I think really kind of got the health department moving again to reinstate these. The commissioners were very supportive of the move to this office. So again, I think just wanting to make sure that funding is not the obstacle to creating this office that seems very sorely needed. That's kind of but that was very broad. So I don't know if y'all have specific questions.
Arnold, Melody?
The Office of Aging is connected to the Waxer Center, right?
Arnold, would you just say that one more time because you cut out briefly?
I said that the Office of Aging is connected to and operates the Waxer Center. Is that correct?
Which center is it?
The Waxer Center, isn't that the facility for seniors that the city runs?
Yeah, so I think there are 6 senior centers, and I don't have them all on my tongue, tip of my tongue, but I can look into that one and answer it. I know there's also in Councilwoman Middleton's district, there's the Zeta Center, which has been, I think, a real for her beacon of just, or rather kind of prototype, which is a private public partnership formed with with a sorority and with the city, getting some city dollars. So I think the number is 6, but I can also double check on that. We're still kind of starting to amass our own research around kind of what the current landscape looks like, and what the office would oversee.
Trust me, you don't have to do research for me about with regard to that question, because I was trying to confirm that the Office of Aging had been around for a while, but I think, as you said, there'd been a shift from the mayor's office, mayor's domain, into health department, I think you said. So I just wanted to just make sure I was in the same universe that you were referring to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Maggie, I would just add that obviously we are not here to gauge the worthiness of your calls, but I would say it is a very meaningful and worthwhile one. So thank you for all of that, and really appreciate the hard work that you guys are doing. And I would just say that as is usually the case, I think Councilman Cohen's gift solicitation waiver is on point, and I don't have any questions.
Thanks, Melody.
All right, Donna?
No, I second what Melody said. I appreciate the calls and the efforts. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. And your comments? Okay, all in favor of the approval of the solicitation waiver for the Office of the Aging from the Office of Councilmember Cohen signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
If I
Franny?
may ask
go ahead.
one question about the campaign, just because it's a city council bill, so it has not yet been approved, so the office doesn't yet exist in the mayor's office. So from like the funding side, will the funds be held in a separate civic fund account that's now designated for the Office of the Aging, with the kind of like with the hope that the office will be established and then transferred to the office, just from a reporting standpoint?
I mean, and would maybe look to your guidance on this, Mara. I think our initial thoughts had been that it would be more of a, I'm blanking on the word right now, but more of the promise of the contribution for future once the office is enacted. I don't see the actual dollars coming in before the office is created.
Perfect. Thank you. That's
A pledge. That was the word I was looking for.
okay.
It's,
All right.
Well,
my
Mara-
coffee has run
Mara-
out for the day.
Great question, Mara. Great answer, Maggie, because technically we just approved it seconds before that question. So we're
I didn't know when
delighted
to
to know
interrupt, but
the
that's really helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Franny, welcome to City Hall. Maggie, thank you for being here. It was always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys need me any questions on the Experience Corps front?
I guess. So tell us about that.
Okay. So I think frankly, it's in tandem. And so that's why we kind of brought these two things forward at the same time. And honestly, the Experience Corps, we had, in transparency, or just for a little context, I think had been really wrestling with this idea of a need for the Office of Aging for several months. The health department and the mayor's office really felt convicted that for reasons related to the finances, it should stay in the health department. But I think, they experienced an issue that happened about a month or 6 weeks ago with the Experience Corps, really, I think, brought this to a boiling point for the council member, which is to say that several volunteers from the Experience Corps, which was really founded and began, is a national program, but really got its starts in Baltimore and then was later adopted by AARP Foundation, and has been running, I think, with great success in Baltimore City. And for anybody who doesn't know, Experience Corps, it partners older adults with our classrooms, teachers, and with young students in Baltimore City elementary schools. So it is just an incredible partnership that involves kind of a minor stipend, but is largely kind of about relationships, some modest tutoring, and really having kind of that bridge between older adults and youth. Experience Corps members came to us and said that they had been told on very short timeline that AARP Foundation was pulling their funding for the program, and so effectively disbanding the program in Baltimore City along with 3 other cities. This was not on the city's radar that we understood. This was a situation where, because of some relationships, those individual volunteers came directly to the council member, and the council member and Councilmember Cohen then brought it to the attention of the health department and different advocates within the mayor's office. Councilmember Cohen was able to talk with the AARP Foundation, kind of executive leadership, was able to get them to commit at least to helping find a fiscal sponsor locally that would get it back up and running by January 2023. But again, it has meant a stopgap in Experience Corps services for, this first half of the school year. It has meant that the entire kind of institutional knowledge of the Baltimore City Experience Corps was lost, because they all lost their jobs without the funding, and it meant that volunteers have kind of like gone to the wind, and we also don't have a pipeline for getting them back, and also for ensuring that the stipend will be there in perpetuity. So all to say, I think that was really what prompted, you know, it was another example of, you know, if we had had an Office of Aging, someone would have had this on their radar, we wouldn't have gotten to this point. So alongside the funding conversations that he anticipates for the Office of Aging, kind of first and foremost is, you know, talking to donors and really kind of the local foundations about making sure that we have the staffing and support for Experience Corps. It is a really modest budget for Experience Corps, something like, you know, I think for staff, it was, you know, maybe I'm kind of looking from memory, but it was about $200,000. It's a pretty lean staff and staffing model. The larger amount of money comes from trying to raise money in the long term for stipends. I think it's about $2,000 or it's about $5,000 a year per individual volunteer for the 9 months. And you know, frankly, volunteers don't do it for money, but they are unlimited and fixed incomes, and it helps pay for gas. It helps, you know, pay some bills, and really has been, what we are told by volunteers, is really kind of the make or break for recruitment, given the population that they are recruiting from. So, so this is really both to ensure that we have the staffing for what is essentially, I think it's a manager of the programming, and then there's a couple site managers who kind of go around to the schools. There were, as of last year, I think 15 partner schools, but at one point it was much closer to 50, and is something that, you know, again, is a model that works. And so I think it was just because of capacity that it was as low as 15. So I think figuring out how to ensure that this, that there is a sound fiscal partner who can, I think, shoulder or kind of bring Experience Corps under their umbrella, but then also potentially reaching out to, I think, largely the local foundations with a proven product that just like needs, frankly, local financing now on a very short notice.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pretty impressive program. Let's open it up for discussion with Maggie at this time. Any questions? Discussion? Mara, you want to jump in here before we vote?
At this time.
Okay.
Good to me.
So
I should say that it already exists. So,
right.
And I think what it would happen is, I think the sort of the first step is finding the fiscal partner who is going to actually take on the management and the running of Experience Corps, and then the funding would actually go, I think, directly to that specific sponsor, rather than to, you know, kind of our intermediary fiscal sponsor or anything like that. Is sort of my presumption of how this would work.
So then in the meantime, will let's say you do raise funds and there isn't a fiscal partner, the Civic Fund would hold those funds in the meantime until that relationship is established, or would it be similar where you'd wait until you have the partner?
I would presume sort of the latter, but I also could see this being a situation where, because it already exists and we know it's just a matter of kind of finding the home and feeling like maybe if we already have some money in the bank to show kind of this prospective sponsor, that they might be more willing to take Experience under their wing. I could see there being some compelling reason to bank some funds ahead of time. So if that is the case, we would do it through the Civic Fund.
Okay, perfect. And then if that were to ever change, where it's no longer the Civic Fund, it's now the fiscal partner, I would imagine you would just note that on your reports, unless the board would like her to return. But that's how I would foresee it kind of working out.
That's a great point, Mara. I really don't know what the better option is, and I suspect if they're on the reports, that's something that you can bring to our attention, Mara, or I don't know. Maybe we should discuss this, because I agree that it might be prudent just to have another set of eyes once that change is made.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree on that. Would it be too much to ask that you do come back to see us if there is that kind of change? Maggie?
Yep, absolutely. We can absolutely do that.
And what we've done in the past, is we had another campaign similarly. They had another fiscal sponsor a little bit later and after they were approved. What they did is they took those questions that you usually put on a separate sheet and they just filled it out for the new fiscal sponsor, emailed it to me, and we presented it to the board. So you could do that similar process whenever you're at that point.
Okay, perfect.
All right, any other discussion? All right, I'd move to approve the Experience Corps solicitation waiver subject to the reporting and returning before us in the event that there is a fiscal sponsor change or addition.
Second.
Can I get a second? All in favor of the solicitation waiver for Office of Aging as described, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Maggie, Franny, tell Councilman Cohen he doesn't send us enough work.
I know,
All
guys.
right.
What would you do all day, right?
Yeah. So he thinks outside the box. We appreciate it. So, but you always check your boxes in these applications for him. So we
Yeah.
are likewise appreciative. Thank
Great.
you
And
very
just
much.
and just because I came on a little late, were there any other outstanding? I know, Mara, there were the two that you all had questions about from before. Did they get answered? Or do we still need to? Okay.
Yep, so the board almost reapproved them, so those are good to go. Then the first interim report is due in 3 months. And then the last part was that at the last board meeting, the board, you had just requested additional information about the Maryland Philanthropy Network, but Councilmember Cohen's office reported that they haven't received that information yet. So as soon as I receive that information from you all, I'll just forward it on to the board.
Great.
Is there anything
Yeah,
else that you all need to?
We've been doing our best to track down our MPN counterparts, but I think in this COVID age, and actually went to their door yesterday, but they are still working remotely, so it doesn't work to go to someone's door in remote world, unless she's knocking on their home door. That might get a little creepy. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you all so much. So grateful for the work you all do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we are back. We have a agenda we have to fill in here. So if you don't mind, we'll just take it in the order as missed. And we'll start, what say you, Mr. Amberger? You say
You're on
nothing.
mute.
No,
Sorry about this.
There we go.
Having another senior moment. There is one point that is not on the agenda that was brought to my attention by Jeff about a day ago. If you recall, at the last meeting, the board approved or opposed City Bill 22-0255, if you recall. That was the establishment of an arson offender registration.
Right.
So again, the board decided, therefore, the ethics board opposes city council bill because it did not fit. It did not fall in our jurisdiction. It was the implied seeking of expansion of the jurisdiction to include this would have been inconsistent with the city charter, ethics law, and Maryland public ethics law. Jeff indicated to me that the opposition of the ethics board may be misunderstood by the commission, and suggested that we revisit it. And I offered to bring this to the board's attention, and if approved, file an amended bill report. I would suggest that the board retracts the opposition and simply does not take a position on the bill for the same reasons as the board opposed the bill last month, because it would require, it is not in our jurisdiction, and it is not in
I mean, would it
sync
be,
with
I would
our.
have no problem with that if it said we have no opinion because we have no jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's what, may I just ask a quick question for clarity to your point, Steve?
Sure.
So we don't have jurisdiction, and they either misread or we misspoke and said we oppose the bill. So we need to clarify to them that we don't take a position. Is that what we're talking about?
That is correct. That the opposition was not directed to the substantive matter of the arson registry, but merely to the that we either opposed merely on jurisdictional grounds or because of jurisdictional grounds do not take a position on this bill.
Donna, I can't see you. What say you?
I do not really have a strong opinion one way or the other. Sorry.
I know. I'm just wondering
okay.
where the disconnect was. I'm just curious where the disconnect was. Is it because we said we oppose it, or is it because they interpreted that we opposed it?
No, it is more preventative, Jeff. I had modeled the response based on a previous bill report that had, in my opinion, a very similar fact pattern, but it was Jeff's opinion, and I double checked with Nina on the matter. It is, for clarity purposes with the commission in whatever future hearing they have at the commission on this matter, that the board makes sure that the substantive matter is unopposed by us, but merely the implied jurisdictional issues.
Sure. Arnold, what do you think?
I have no strong opinions on the matter, and I think it makes sense to not enter an objection that's misunderstood. I think clarifying that we don't have a jurisdiction makes plenty of sense. So, yeah. Good on us.
And we're not here to help arsonists, even unintentionally. So I think that's the point. So Chris, I guess we did approve that letter. So I would move that we approve an amendment to that letter pursuant to the terms discussed here before the board today. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the retraction or amendment of that letter by the terms prescribed today, please indicate by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Donna, did I hear you?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay, it might have been simultaneous with Melody. Sorry.
Yep.
All right. Okay, thank you, Christoph, for that update. Do you have any other updates, metrics for us? Dynamic duo there.
We do have another bill 22.
Yeah, but that's at the end. I'm desperately trying to get back in order. so we'll finish with legislation and annual report. If you're okay with it, I'd prefer to hear from you about our monthly update on how things are going.
Sure. So I can provide the metrics. Let's see. So for ethics training, this is a great month for ethics training. So we deployed the training on Workday. So we had 41 people who registered. We enrolled them all in the new training, which is available on Workday, which is the city's HR platform. And so far, 15 people completed the training, and they have until the end of the month. However, what's great about this training is people can self-enroll. They don't have to register with us. They can just log in and sign up. Oh. So without us even knowing, 68 people just self-enrolled in the last 2 weeks. So they must have logged in and saw it. And of those, 38 people have taken it, and the remaining have 30 days to take it. So it's been really effective, this self-enrollment option. So moving forward, we'll likely just funnel people straight to their accounts rather than having them register with the board a month in advance. What we'll do is, if they're a city employee, we'll have them just log into their account and take the training, because it just kind of it's a lot easier. It skips us, and I think it's more effective because people are more attentive, like they're looking for the training rather than waiting a month or two for it. So That's been really.
I'm sorry. Is there
No, go ahead.
theme or pattern or group in specifically that seem to sign up?
So
I mean, are they mostly in one or two departments or scattered?
I'll have to take a look at the agencies. I haven't really analyzed the agencies just yet because I do have to wait for HR to send me reports.
Okay.
Soon I'll have access.
Okay.
That being said, a significant number of people from BCIT, so the IT department, have been reaching out. A lot of IT department employees. So, but they're probably our best agency when it comes to taking the training. They have some of the highest numbers. So we got a big wave of them. And then to that end, last month, Donna, you had asked about identifying certain officials that we should target. So we actually met with Human Resources yesterday, and they are going to create, hopefully, an automated way to determine who is classified as an official under the ethics law, because officials are required to take the training, and there's like a list. It's, division heads, bureau heads, department heads. So they're going to use Workday to find all of the people who meet those categories under the law, and then we are going to kind of push them into the training, and they'll have to take it within a certain time frame. So we are working on that.
Yay.
So it's a really great development.
That's the way it should work for efficiency. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because usually it's, me Googling who is the chief of staff of the Department of Transportation and Adam. But yeah, so this will be a lot more effective.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so training is great. We have 68 people have taken it this fiscal year since July. And then I'll just jump right into help desk. We received 83, so it's going up. Since Chris started, we're starting to get more people. We have 13 requests from lobbyists, 8 about gift solicitations, 20 about financial disclosures, 30 inquiries, which is what our typical number is. So those went back up. 5 about the ethics training, and then 6 were outside of our jurisdiction. 1 was just administrative about a form. So our total is 144 since July. We received 1 new complaint, which was dismissed immediately because it's outside of our jurisdiction, and we can discuss that more during the administrative session. No new advisory opinion requests, no employment waiver requests. Financial disclosures, we have 13 outstanding filers, and in addition to that number, we have 10 filers who are still on leave, so they haven't filed. And again, I can update you all on what we've done during our administrative session. So I'll come back to that. And then lastly, gift solicitations. We've had, as you might have noticed, a record number of people interested in these waivers. So we had the 4 applications today. 4 expired. We have received a final report. We received 2 interim reports. And every time we get a report, we review them, and then we typically ask for more information if we see any details that are lacking. So we're waiting on a lot of supplemental reports. But I foresee us receiving a lot more waivers soon because a lot of people have been asking. And those are the metrics.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mara. Do you have anything to add, Christoph, or do we want to just move to legislation and let you tee off on that?
I don't have anything substantive to add, except for that I took the Workday ethics course myself. I think that because all these pop-up blockers influence how smooth the go back to the entire course is. There's probably still some technical issues that can be improved, but in itself it is the identical course that has been offered online for the past year at least, and I had no intention of changing it because Jeff has this very calming voice on the videos and really walks you through it. I think dulcet is the right word for that. So
nice. But I don't know. I think an authoritarian German voice might also be good too, Chris. I'm just saying.
Yes, for compliance.
All right, Donna laughed.
We have ways of making it.
Exactly. Say that again. Thank you. Thank you both. I will move right now to legislation 6B for new business, Bill 22260. Chris, on public inspection and identifying information. What are we going to do with that?
So the bill has two parts. One is about limiting or eliminating access to a portion of the financial disclosure statement that expressly identifies the address of a family member. Now, the ethics law really does not permit us to provide the address of a family member to a public inspector or anyone who signs up for the inspection. I went through, and Maura and I went through the financial disclosure form and forms that we had on the Ethics Board website. And as it turns out, our wording may have been not quite clear or ambiguous to say the least. So we went back to the schedule itself, Schedule 7. We added language in that schedule. Please do not enter the address of family members specifically and explicitly. We also went to, however, the form itself was designed in a way that, and I put in the addresses of my family members who are involved. But it was, again, ambiguous, so we asked BCIT to redesign the form and really fix the problem at the core by not even giving the reporting public employee the opportunity to enter family information. That also, at least as far as I could ascertain, eliminated the family member address form, address information from the publicly available information. And I believe we are in compliance with the ethics law at this point. And for that regard, I believe that particular part of the bill is moot. And again, I would not oppose it probably, but just for mootness, have no opinion on it or take no position on it. The second one, I believe, is more complex. It is about repealing the requirement that an individual provide certain information when inspecting a financial disclosure for a public servant. And at this point, the ethics law requires each person who inspects a statement, and that is section 7-4 B, record of inspections. Executive director must require each person who inspects a statement filed under the subtitle to identify him and or herself and record the inspecting person's name, address, telephone number, and organization represented, and the name of the person whose statement was inspected. I'm sorry. So the proposal is to eliminate that section and de facto make the financial disclosures available for inspection without any prior pre-qualification or identification to an outside person or entity. The state financial disclosures still collect all that information, and so the question would be if Baltimore City's ethics law is permitted to be more stringent than the Maryland state ethics law, where does that stringency come in? On one way, I see that collecting all that information or forcing someone or asking someone to provide that information may present a perceived barrier to the inspection by making people jump through an additional hoop. the other aspect of it is that anyone really can enter whatever information they choose to enter, if it's wrong or if it's correct, or if Mickey Mouse is inspecting it or whoever else. We have no way of verifying the ID that is provided, and so far it is, perhaps not as useful as contemplated. On the other hand, it is, of course, the information of family members, employers is still there. So there is, at least on my side, a concern about providing that information without checks and balances on the inspection side, in an age of canceling and doxing and perhaps harassing that family member on behalf of some other entity. So that was my concerns there.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So Christoph, let me just make sure I understand this. So that part that you've highlighted in the bill report is the part that is what we're trying to repeal, or what's being proposed for repealing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need to double check, but I know that there are Maryland statutes that talk about just public disclosures of information, of personal information. And maybe what we need to do is check that statute, and I can do it, or you guys can do it, or whatever. But to the extent that some of this information falls under that category, I don't think that family information is under there. But maybe you've already looked. I would want whatever is in this legislation to be the same as that. In other words, to have the same level of protection for that information, so that we're not asking public officials to provide more information than is required by law for disclosure.
Yeah. So what? Yeah, we're as I said, required by the law to collect the family member's employer's address, and that would be available to outside inspection at this point. In regard to Maryland Public Information Act, it is of course difficult. I mean, it comes to mind that because it is linkable to a specifically identifiable public employee, there may be a level of confidentiality involved, at least in regard to family members.
I think this is more, maybe I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be, but to me, it seems like we need to double check, not for even MPIA purposes, although that's relevant. I think we need to double check the statute for personal protected information. There's a general personal protected information statute that talks about people who are in possession of personal protected information and the circumstances in which that information can be released. What I think we're all trying to accomplish here is making sure that we're not providing more information to the public than is necessary. And I don't necessarily know that. I don't like having some of this family information readily available to every person just because I either work for or I'm an agent of the city. Anyway, all that is to say, maybe we should look at that particular personal protected information statute and make sure it's commensurate with this legislation. That's all I'm saying. Have I completely dropped it out of this conversation? I'm sorry.
You've edified me. I didn't realize that this is a brand new law. I'm looking at the AG's website, and I do think it is an excellent guide to what we're letting. We have the city laws. The city laws can't be less restrictive than the state laws, but they can be more restrictive when it comes to certain prohibitions. So, I mean, I think the city has the right to be more protective if they want to of this information. What do you think, Christoph? It's a pretty
This
deep.
is meaty. This is meaty.
Yeah.
Yes, and it works on both sides. I mean, the interest of the public in that information, and then of course the privacy or confidentiality interest of the public employee on this. And this, I believe, is not something, you know, we are at this point. So I'm kind of coming down in the middle of it, actually. So yeah. I mean, given the lack of verification of ID, you know, anyone can enter anything and get that access at this point, which would be the same what they would do, what they could do if they were, if that requirement were removed.
May I ask one more question? Is there a timeline within which we're working to sort of sort this through? Do we have a deadline to give our opinion or thoughts on this?
I believe it's the 19th, so next week. But let me check. And frequently they give us those deadlines, but they don't schedule the hearing for another 2 months. And the law department tends to wait to the last possible minute. So I'm not sure if that's a hard deadline. Let me see if it's scheduled.
That's what we need to do. We need to punt this to the law department, honestly. And I don't mean punt. That was poorly phrased.
No, I got you.
This is such a important area, data privacy versus transparency, for what we do, that I think maybe a more robust legal analysis by people much smarter than people who have more knowledge than all of us. Let's just say that.
I agree.
Probably more time.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Melody. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the benefit for the public employee who actually, you know, in the current setup, knows that someone actually has looked at his information, and if there's a, you know, a fake name or something, you know, there is an indicator that, you know, he or she may be under scrutiny, or, you know, someone, you know, just out of sheer boredom looked up the information. But it provides a little bit of advance notice, you know, if that is good or bad from our point of view.
Right.
You know, for example, from an Inspector General's investigation, you know, it would also leave the request of the information request, you know, marked for the employee to see. Which would not occur in the proposed setup or the elimination of that information. So I would agree that requesting maybe a deeper legal analysis in balancing aspects of reasonable confidentiality of that information of family members who are, for intents and purposes, third parties, with the public's right to inspect.
All right, Arnold, Donna, are you also feeling like we should get an opinion from the city law department?
Absolutely.
I see you nodding your head. But
Yeah,
I hear you
I
say
agree.
absolutely. All right, yeah,
agree.
this one's pretty easy as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I'll move that we refer this matter to the law department for an opinion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion to ask the law department for an opinion on 220260 in relation to data privacy, et cetera. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, that'll be referred to the law department. Thank you, Christoph. All right, you or somebody wrote up a nice summary of the Maryland ethics changes for the administration bill. Was that you?
That was actually that was Jeff.
Oh, okay.
And so
It was good.
that is still the fallout of his last year here percolating through to us. So I had, if it's a good piece of work, I would like to take credit, but it is absolutely Jeff's.
Just drip off the identifying information from the Word document. Okay. All right, we're good. Joe, tell us if you want to go through this real quick. I mean, I've read it and it's interesting. Has anybody else had a chance to look at it? Have any questions about any of these state law changes that perhaps Christoph could,
I thought
let us
they
go
were-
deeper into?
They were relatively clear. I did not have any issues with any of them.
Yeah.
I apologize. I must have missed that. Can you point me to that in the file? I have the new business, but I don't see it.
It's under new business legislation, and it's called administration bill. It was actually
I
just
see it now. I apologize.
yeah, and it was just assigned a number. It's now case 220276. So we will have to submit a response, even though technically we drafted it. We would submit a response by, I believe it's mid-October, so we can discuss this again at the October meeting. But basically, it's just bringing our law into conformance with state law.
And it's something that, yeah, something
we
that has
don't
to
have
be
much
done.
of choice there.
Right. It's something that has to be done every year, every 2 years, whatever. There are changes to the GP article.
I see. Okay, well, I will certainly review it, but certainly I understand the need for it. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, we obviously have to, to make the changes. So
Right. So yeah,
We can-
given that,
I was going to say
Go
we
ahead,
could revisit it at the October meeting. Once I'm sure we'll have to submit a bill report, so we could provide a draft at the October meeting.
we'll go ahead without objection and ask staff to provide a draft letter of approval of our own bill for the next meeting, and then we'll all have had a chance to think about these things. So, all right, so we're settled on that. Mara, let's see what else is on the public agenda, but certainly, 2022 annual report. What's not to say about it? That it's great. So,
Yeah, so that was last year we distributed our report on September 27th. We're at about that time. So I was wondering if anyone had any comments, suggestions, revisions, and if you're ready to approve, at that point we could distribute it.
I
Yeah,
actually thought it was
I-
on the street.
Yeah, I thought we already approved it. We
did.
loved it.
Release it.
Mm.
We love it. And we love, everything about it. The work that you've done, the work that the staff has done with respect to the metrics, to the fact that there's more transparency than ever, down to the fact that it's an attractive presentation. It's beautiful. I love the nautical theme. I think I told you before. Yeah. So, right. It's great. It's highly professional, and it reflects very well on the board and the
Mhm.
city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, so then we will plan on
Mhm.
distributing that maybe next week. And I'll have to discuss with Chris, but last year we did an email blast. We did a press release with the media. So if you all like those ideas again, we'll follow like the same kind of setup.
Yeah.
We'll do the
Yeah.
same thing as last year.
Yeah.
Any objections?
The only thing I didn't do, and I meant to do it, is just do a side-by-side comparison of last year's report and this report to see if there's anything that sticks out, like a sudden increase, a sudden decrease, a sudden change. And I don't think there is, but just let's take an action, Mara and Christoph, to do that, because when it hits the media, they'll certainly do it.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
I-
and
I-
I-
Maybe you already
really
did that,
updates.
Mara.
I did pull out some.
Anything.
Yep, I did pull out some big metrics, like our training numbers went from about 300 to 800, and then we have a little bit of analysis of our help desk requests because our financial disclosure questions dropped by 300, but our other ones increased, and that's because everyone is used to the filing website now. So we did highlight some of those, but I'll make sure to kind of proactively I don't know, determine what the press is gonna kind of, I
Yeah,
don't know, focusing
Yeah.
on. But yes, for sure.
thank you. And again, marvelous job. It's just amazing to think, looking at last year, how far we've come in 2 years. You know, to me, it's just a huge success story. So kudos again.
Oh, a great board. Thank you all
Absolutely.
very much.
Oh. All right. Is there any other business for the public session? Hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn the public session. Thank you for joining us.